Today, I want to talk to you about one of the biggest problems I see in businesses today, and I think one of the most amazing opportunities companies have to differentiate themselves from their competitors. And that is this gap, this relationship gap, this connection between people in teams. This exists in I think almost every business and across every function within a business. And it's not a new problem. This is something that companies have been trying to solve for years. It's a multi-billion pound industry. You've got team corporate away days, team bonding activities. You've got um, personality assessments, Myers-Briggs, insights. All of these things are designed around trying to solve this problem. Well, why? Why are we trying to solve this problem? What benefit does that have to a company if people are connected to one another? Well, a huge amount. Imagine if you had a team that's very disconnected from one another, as an example, and this person has an idea. They want to share it with somebody. That goes to the only person they probably know, which is their manager. This person feels overwhelmed, unsure of what to do. The only person they can really talk to, if they are willing to have that conversation, is with their manager. This person doesn't know where to find a document, don't know where to go. Probably going to go to their manager. The more disconnected a team is, the more noise that goes to the manager. And we've seen how managers are suffering right now. The Gallup survey showed how much their engagement dropped year on year. So we know that they're really struggling right now. And the amount of noise coming from disconnected teams is huge. And there's no value being driven from all of these people sharing what they know, what they're learning, what they're experiencing every day with one another. So that team proficiency is really stalled as a result. And that doesn't even go on to touch about how we know it benefits people if they feel connected to others around the team. That sense of belonging they get, if they feel like they're part of something, the relationships that they have, friendships that they have at work, and how much that impacts intrinsic motivation and their likelihood to stay at the company. There's so much benefit from connecting these people together. And that's why it's been such a multi-billion pound industry. But before we get on to how I've seen companies solve this really, really well, I want to share with you a bit about why I think this is a problem that's increasing now over time. I think there are five main things. There's more, but in my experience from what I'm seeing, I think there are five. The first is technology. There's so many different examples of this. Let me give you two. Artificial intelligence replacing human conversations. New person joins the team. They want to find out how to do the job, find out how to do a certain task. They want to find out where documents are. They want to find out X, Y, and Z. They all involve messy human interactions with that person and the rest of the team. All of those interactions involve a slight element of social risk on behalf of the person that's asking the questions. They are taking a risk to go and say, I need a bit of help here. They're taking a risk to say, I know I should know where that thing is, but I don't know where it is. Every time one of those social interactions happens where there's a slight element of risk, that is an opportunity to bridge that gap between people. Because if that person takes the risk and asks that person, and that person helps them, they'll probably feel quite good about that interaction. And that person will feel like they want to help that person in the future if they can, because they've been able to solve the problem or whatever it was they had. So those two people are now slightly closer together than they were before. But if you've got artificial intelligence as a way of asking something that's not going to judge you, that's not going to be tired, that's not going to be doing something else, etc., that doesn't involve any social risk in you asking the question, you will always ask the AI over the person. So that reduces the amount of those human interactions that happen that are so important at the early stages of somebody joining a company and forming all of those relationships and connections with people around the team. That's just one tiny example of how technology is impacting that. There's many more. Take Teams and Workspace and Slack and all of those chat-based platforms that now companies are using instead of email. If you're going to need to ask a colleague something, and even if you're in the same office at the same time, you're more likely now to send a chat message and just walk over to their desk. We are much more likely to do that quick way of doing something rather than take that opportunity to go and walk over and speak to somebody, all of which reduces that opportunity to speak to somebody else and reduce that connection gap between people. Secondly, where we work, of course, we're working in different places now. Post-COVID, it's much more flexible. We're much more likely to be in different places. There's less time face-to-face, and face-to-face is the time when you make the best connections with other people. Nothing can replace that as well as a face-to-face period of time together. So less time physically face-to-face in the same space means we're reducing those opportunities to bridge those connections and become closer together. we are a more diverse workforce, which is wonderful, right? It's a brilliant thing that we have more generations in the workforce than ever before. We have companies that really focus on bringing in more diverse people into their workforce. Great. And they understand the benefit from that, right? The more diverse people you have around the table, the more different ideas you'll get, the more different experiences and thoughts and problem solving ideas, etc. All of that comes from a more diverse workforce. Brilliant. But you don't get the value from diversity unless you have the underlying foundation of psychological safety to enable that to happen. And most companies are not investing in thinking about how to make that the case. That's another video for another day. But if you think you can throw a load of people together that are diverse and think that's going to work out of the box, it's probably not. The fourth one is we are really out of practice now at talking to strangers. We're getting worse and worse at being able to do this. There's a brilliant piece of research by Nicholas Epley around commuter trains. And I won't go into depth with it now, but he took two groups of people and said, one group, you have to go and talk to strangers on your train commute this morning, and you have to forecast how well you think that's going to go. How are you going to feel, and how successful will that interaction be with a stranger? Other group, you have to just sit on your own, not talk to anybody. Again, forecast how well you think that's going to go and how you're going to feel about that. The summary was, what we found was that we are terrible at predicting how well we think we can interact with a stranger and how positive that will be received by the stranger. We're terrible at predicting that. It goes far better than we ever expected it to be. And for most people in that piece of research, they recorded it as one of the best things of their day that they went to do that. But we're really out of practice at doing that now. If you look at people walking around with headphones, a lot of people now will walk around with headphones and they'll be listening to nothing, but they just don't want to talk to strangers. We are really out of practice at being able to do this well, and we think we're really bad at it, and we expect it to go really badly if we try it, so we don't do it. Last one is workload. We live in a world where people are in back-to-back meetings that are often online, virtual, with a load of people in them, and your opportunity to interact with those people is vastly reduced because you're back-to-back, there's no time, and there's loads of people in there anyway. So the opportunity for any kind of chat or interaction is vastly reduced. So all of this means that this gap between people is bigger than it's ever been, in my opinion, and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So how do we solve it in a way that enables us to bridge that gap between people and enable us to get all that business value and enable us to be different to our competitors? Well, I think there are 5 main things that you can do from the best practice that I've seen working with businesses who are really focused on this. The first thing to think about is shared experience. If you have 2 people that experience something together that's a bit emotionally charged, they will be more bonded, they'll be closer together as a result of that. So how can you use that? Well, let's take a team meeting. Let's say you've got your next team meeting coming up, there's 10 people in your team meeting, and you say to these 2 people, you 2 are going to run that meeting. You're going to design the agenda, you're going to facilitate the day, it's on you 2. Now, those 2 people might feel a little bit nervous about that. They might feel a little bit worried. They'll meet up together to plan it, etc. beforehand. They'll run it on the day, maybe feel a bit nervous and tense, etc. Then afterwards, they're going to feel pretty good. They might be having a drink together afterwards and think, that went really well. They will be closer together as a result of that experience. And that is a really powerful way to start bridging that gap between people. So think about shared experiences you can give to your people. Second one is empathy. Empathy is the victim of the noisy, chaotic world of work that we operate in right now. We just don't take the time and give the attention to somebody else to truly understand their perspective and their situation. If you can do this well, it really brings people together in a very, very positive way. It can really quickly reduce that gap. So how can you use it? There's a really nice quick exercise that we do that you can steal. It's called a walk in your shoes. And basically you group your team together, split them into 2s, and then one person will be the talker, one person will be the listener. And you put up a couple of prompts on the screen that they can use or not. It's up to them. The prompts might say, talk about what you love about your job, talk about what you do in your job that other people might not know, talk about something that you find interesting about your work, talk about you on a good day, just a few things that give them ideas around what they want to talk about. And that person then, the talker, just has to then spend 5 minutes going through that. That's it. The other person, the listener, the only job they've got to do is listen. They can't take notes. They've just got to give that person the undivided attention. And then at the end, offer an observation back, something they heard or felt or understood from what that other person was saying. Then swap. So 10 minutes and then do a debrief as a whole collective group, what did we think? What did we find? You will hear so much positivity from that. I didn't know this person did all this stuff in their job. Actually, we're really similar when we found out we talked about this thing. There's so much value in just that 10 minutes of those two people talking like that. So practice it, have a play with it, and then you can really play around with how do you develop empathy in your team as a way of bringing your people closer together. Third one is vulnerability. Vulnerability is such a powerful way to bring people together. If you are leading a team and you want to think about how you can share mistakes and the learning from mistakes that is so valuable, particularly in a world where we're trying to innovate with AI, for example, then how do you do that? How do you get people to share the things that they're trying that aren't working? Because that's where there's so much value. And if you've got a disconnected team, they're not going to do that. They're very unlikely to do that. So one of the things you can do as a leader is go first. Share the things that you've done that haven't gone well and what you learned from them. When you offer vulnerability to the team, they will reciprocate. They are more likely to reciprocate and then bring out the things that they've tried that haven't gone well, and then just praise them, absolutely praise them when they do share that back with the team. Fourth one, kind of in a similar theme, is learning. A brilliant way to get a high-performing team is to enable them to share learning with one another. And I mean, how do they do their jobs? What are they doing? What are they trying? What's working? What's not working? Share that learning. That is so valuable. And if a team is sharing learning with one another, and that's happening at speed, dynamically, all the time, the team proficiency flies. But people also feel really connected to each other as a result because they're gaining so much value from one another. So how do you do that? My advice here is let them work it out. Most managers make the mistake of thinking, I'll impose a way to help them learn from each other. I'll impose a learning hour or whatever it might be. Let them work it out. At a team meeting, give them the job, split them into little groups, 2s and 3s, and say, right, think about 3 things you'd like to learn from everybody around this table and 1 way in which you'd like to try doing that. Then debrief as a group and think of something that you'll try as a result. Some kind of experiment that you'll do for 6 weeks and see if it works. But it's their idea, so it's far more likely to be sustained and to work than if it was your idea that you impose on them. If you get it right, the value is huge. And the last one is then the time together. Design the time together intentionally. Too many teams make the mistake of when they have a team meeting or an all hands or something like that, they pack it full of stuff. They pack it full of people talking at them for the whole day. And when you poll those people and you say, what was the best part of your day? They will always say the small interaction that I had with somebody I hadn't spoken to before, or this kind of conversation I had quickly on the tea break. That's the thing that they value, the moments of connection. So give them that. Design the time intentionally around connection and reduce the broadcast. That can happen anytime. They don't need to be face-to-face in a room for that to happen. Design it around connection. And if you can do some of those things, I promise you, you'll start to see that connection between your team reduce and you will feel the benefit from that.